As we all know, AI-powered bots are no longer just scraping the web. They are overwhelming it. Akamai's latest State of the Internet report shows a 300% surge in automated traffic in just 1 year. And much of it is driven by sophisticated, obviously, AI tools built to mimic real users. For companies that rely on digital engagement, this shift is changing everything from security risk to business models. And to discuss this report, today we have with us once again Rupesh Chokshi, Senior Vice President and General Manager of Application Security at Akamai. Rupesh, this new State of the Internet report shows AI bot traffic is surging incredibly. Talk a bit about what is driving this explosive surge.
Swapnil, a pleasure to be on the show with you here, and the topic is very, very top of mind for the executives, the boardroom, the security personnel, but the business personnel, right? And you talked about 300% growth, which is fascinating, right? In terms of the way we know how the internet is and how it works, a lot of it is changing. And all customers and enterprises would want to say, hey, I had 300% growth in bot traffic. Is like, wow, you want to say more like I had 300% growth in my customers or in my, products or in my scale that I'm trying to do versus this, very, very powerful sort of, AI bots that are coming in, and whether they're scraping content or they're taking and ingesting data for learning, for other reasons. And we see a lot of this in the kind of like, in the fraud and abuse space. And it's fascinating to see not just the kind of like the volume growth. And some of that comes because there's so much kind of automation, right? This is sort of like, it's almost like the first use case of Agentic, where all of these AI bots are out there, they're crawling, they're collecting information, they're bringing it back. They're trying to figure out sort of, what is relevant, not relevant, and in the Akamai's SOTI report that we published, we give a lot of breakdown in terms of what industries are impacted, right? The publishing industry or the healthcare or the manufacturing, and every vertical, every business is getting impacted with it. And to some extent, you're almost serving all of this kind of technological digital infrastructure to something that might or might not yield any value, right? It's not bringing a customer to you, or it's not bringing a transaction to you, or it's not trying to buy something yet, right? So it's a very kind of difficult situation for customers and enterprises to be while this kind of traffic continues to increase.
When we look at these AI-powered bot, how are they reshaping or even threatening the traditional web-based business model, as you mentioned, publishers, SaaS providers, digital commerce, and forcing them to rethink? Because it's actually, in a way, not challenging one aspect or that is challenging the whole model itself.
Yeah. So we'll do some very simple examples, right? So if I'm a publisher, my main business model is that, hey, I have a paywall, or I want to share some of my content free and some of my content behind a paid wall, and I want to drive my subscribers. And historically, the SEOs or the search engine models, where you would go to Google or any other search engine and say, look up some story for a top line news, and it'll come back and say, here is Wall Street Journal or New York Times or Daily Mail or XYZ. And you get a click out of that, and that click then sort of goes and delivers on the actual user to the enterprise or the business or the publisher in this case, right? So all of that, I think, is kind of like a little bit up in the air, because now all of this content is being scraped. There's an AI-based response to that search, and in many cases, the AI and the AI bots are sort of, providing the top line story, but even writing the articles or providing a point of view. And that end user never goes and gets referred to the publisher or to the business, right? So that is how it is like very, very disruptive. And, we work with a lot of publishers. They're on the Akamai platform. And I've been, busy through the whole summer talking about what are the solutions. Do you deny? Do you block? Do you target? Do you allow some? Do you allow certain specific ones, because that's where your business models are set up, and then how do you monetize, right? And there is a lot of discussion in this space, in the industries. How do you monetize? I do fear that, if you think about like the healthcare industry, right, there's a lot of you know genuine public information on healthcare, and if you are feeling some kind of headache, then go do XYZ. A lot of this is being scraped and then packaged, and the AI bots are scraping, packaging, learning, and responding. And it kind of like, that is what the next generation is going to be used to, right? That's how they will kind of get their advice, or that's the only thing that they know. So I worry about how the transformation is going to happen, what's going to happen to the healthcare companies, what's going to happen to the SaaS companies, what's going to happen to the tech companies, where all of that information is now kind of scraped and packaged and almost like redelivered in a whole different context that they cannot control.
In past, have you seen a technology or pattern or maybe actors as sophisticated as AI is, which brought similar challenge that the whole model was threatened? And Akamai has been around for so long. You have pioneered a lot of technologies that we use today, where you have been through that, and you're like, yes, this is challenging, but industry recovered that phase, and I'm pretty sure that we will recover this phase. This is not a doomsday scenario.
Definitely not a doomsday scenario. I think we all have to be smart about it. I think we all sort of like, welcome the advances that AI is making, right? Like, I think the future is about an agentic AI web, right? Which is going to be very different. The speed at which commerce can take place, or the ease of, use in terms of doing very complex, kind of multiple step needs or systems. So it's a lot of, positivity will come from there. And I think in the past we have seen, one very simple example is that, the early days of e-commerce, right? There was so much fear that the brick and mortar is all going to go away and it's going to have, a big shift. And it did have a big shift, right? And there were so many businesses that were born native on the web and continue to do phenomenal. There were so many businesses that figured out the hybrid model, right? Which is, if I am brick and mortar and I am on the web and on the internet, how do I kind of bring all of those things together? And if you look at the most kind of current, right, there is even more integration of the future and the current, right, with these hybrid ways people are doing things, in that example. So I definitely think, the same thing with mobile, right? The whole thing was everything will be mobile. The same thing with, streaming services or video services. Linear TV will go away. This will happen. So there are so many examples, right, that we have seen across the board. I think the smartest customers and enterprises are going to be the one who will kind of embrace, but figure out, right? How do I live in this new world? Like, what is the value I can deliver? What is the value I can capture, right? Because the report and the data clearly shows, right? The SOTI report clearly shows that you have the likes of Google or Anthropic or, OpenAI or Meta, Perplexity, ByteDance, all of these are the prominent, players that are scraping, crawling, and taking the information data. And you want to be part of that ecosystem. So what is the smartest way to figure all of that out? And I think these is early days in terms of the agentic workflows, right? So once those come in, then it's almost like you want to serve, if you're selling a product, you want to sell the product to the agentic AI, because the agentic AI is trying to buy the product, and the most common examples that we hear every day is, hey, in the travel industry, it's all going to change because Rupesh is going to say, hey, I want to go do a vacation to Fiji. These are my dates. I'm flexible. These are my hotel requirements. Can you show me an itinerary? Can you give me the price? I'm good with it. Can you book it for me? Right? So those kind of things. And, people are doing that. But AI is interesting. I think the other day somebody was mentioning to me that they ended up doing a whole itinerary with an AI product, and for most part it worked, but somewhere it hallucinated and it ended up taking them to a place that did not exist because it kind of created this sort of XYZ mountain, but it did not exist. So you want to be careful about a lot of these things. So back to the whole kind of abuse and fraud, and how some of it could be just as simple as hallucination, but some of it could be a lot of intelligent trickery, right? That is going to come into play to extract value or data or PII information while trying to do all these agentic use cases.
Can you also talk about some of the tools that are being used, FraudGPT, WormGPT? What makes these harmful AI bots different from legitimate automation or AI assistant, or when because AI agentic AI is even a totally different. I don't even want to open that can of worm that businesses rely on. How can organizations reliably tell the difference between the harmful bots versus, of course, useful bots?
Right, right. So that is kind of like the challenge of the day, right? In terms of like fraud GPT or worm GPT, right? These are, you know, unlike the legitimate AI bots, they are not ethical. They are coming in and doing all kind of malicious activities. They're facilitating, cyber attacks. They are convincing, phishing content and fraudulent website, forged documents. So they have a whole different kind of like, playbook that they're coming in with, and they are very sneaky, as in, they're not providing any sort of known handshake and other things, and they're finding kind of backdoors to collect, extract all of this data, and if they find an opening, then they get into a more kind of malware and malicious activity. So definitely a lot of risk associated with all of them that is happening right now. We see it, we talk about it in the SOTI report at length. And then you kind of beg the question is that, if you kind of lift from this thing and say, okay, yes, there will be a, agentic AI world, the web will change and the way commerce is going to be done is going to change. What is that kind of digital handshake, right? What is that trust? So, one example recently, Amazon launched Agent Core, right? So Akamai worked with Amazon, and, we followed this kind of web bot authentication, a methodology in which, you build a certain kind of handshake that says, yep, I know who you are authenticated, I'm going to allow you to kind of proceed, right? So that level of kind of digital handshake, the trust and the certificates and how you go about it is going to be very important. Now, I don't think it is sort of like one and done, because, this is more like, hey, is like the first level of layered defense or security. Then you have to think about, in the agentic way, is that what else is that agent trying to do? Is they trying to, access some resource or information? Is it scraping? Is it genuinely, doing the intent? If the intent was, I want to purchase airline tickets, or I want to purchase shoes, or is it now looking for, I want to know the specifications of the airplane? It's like you have to follow through. What is the intent? How to think about it? And at every step, is it kind of following that digital path and the trust path, or it is trying to extract or remote code execution or prompt injections? I mean, there's so many of these, and OWASP has done a great job of laying out the threat vectors and the details around the types of attacks and what one needs to prepare to support and protect.
Thank you. Oh, going back to OWASP guidelines for web apps, APIs, and LLMs, you touched upon that. The challenge is that not every business owner, leader follow these frameworks closely. Of course, CISOs, security, they do follow. How should they use OWASP to strengthen their defenses in practical day-to-day operations, not just for information and education?
So the way I kind of think about it is that, OWASP is providing the guidelines or the frameworks, right? They're making sure that everybody's educated, understands the landscape, and it's there for web applications, it's there for API, LLM security, etc. So very important security guidance. Great. Now you have to kind of think about sort of, what are my, control flows, or what are my access control flows, or where are my data exposure, right? What is my risk tolerance? Where is this need to be, prioritized, right? And that is where the security teams have to play a very important role, because you're not going to be able to solve for everything on day zero or day one or day two, but you want to make sure that you have the right kind of risk profile and the right kind of protections and the right kind of security posture, and you're applying all of this intelligence and in the right areas, tying back to your business systems and your sort of what you are exposing, whether it's an agentic world, whether it is to just web applications in general, or Gen AI applications that are powered by LLMs, etc. So I think that is where there's a lot of opportunity for the industry to really kind of embrace and expand and focus.
As we have been discussing in past also, that security concerns have now become board imperatives. What should executives be prioritizing right now, so not only they stay ahead of this new class of risk, not only they are prepared for it? I mean, we should not be reacting, we should be proactively working in a manner, as you and I have talked about, that it's gone on the phase of reacting to things. We have to become proactive. So how should they prioritize things right now?
Definitely, a boardroom conversation, right? And I think it all kind of started, if you think about last year into early this year, is that, hey, everyone's utilizing AI. AI is promising tremendous amount of, like, at the core value proposition, it's all productivity, right? I need less people. I can automate tasks. I can go faster. Robots will do everything. So you have this sort of, talk track that is all tied to, productivity or speed at which one can do things. And that makes sense. And I think every tool, every technology, every opportunity to become more efficient, to become more proficient is always welcome. And we're going to see all of that take place in every industry. I think where there is a business opportunity is to really better understand how the agentic AI world is going to create new business models, and how do you participate in that, right? And how do you participate in that commerce, or how do you participate in that information exchange, or how do you participate in sort of differentiation? And those companies and enterprises that are doing that are early days right now, but I do anticipate and see over the next sort of 12 to 18 months that the ones that are already participating in this, because you hear about, agentic browsers, and you hear about sort of, a lot more types of agentic AI use cases. So I think the boardroom conversations are, hey, there is a 1.0 of AI. We are now entering the 2.0, 3.0 phase. And what do we need to do to benefit from that? And obviously, you want to do both with security at the core of it, right? In terms of thinking about, I want to do all of these things in a very secure fashion, but I want to prime and prepare for that world. And that is where, again, a lot of the knowledge and the research that we are sharing through the Akamai SODI report is about that, in terms of, what are the traffic patterns? What are the vulnerabilities? Where is the whole sort of, bot and abuse and fraud space going? But, it's going to be here. So it's not like you cannot participate. You have to participate, right? So you got to figure out how to do that.
Now we have been talking about the problem area. I want to talk about what folks like Akamai or other security companies doing. With AI bots becoming more human-like, it's really hard to tell the difference. How is detection evolving? Are we entering a phase where traditional signatures and rate limiting are no longer enough? How are you folks, Because as attacks are becoming sophisticated, agents are becoming sophisticated, what kind of technologies are you building for better detection?
It's a great question. And, we have some of the smartest people in the security working at Akamai, both from a threat research, threat intel, data science, technology, engineering. And we're thinking about a few areas, right? So one is just whole kind of AI security. We launched a product called Firewall for AI, deploying guardrails, prompt injection, OS top 10 protections, input, output. And, every customer who has a Gen AI app or an LLM or a chatbot, etc., has to have that, right? Because that provides a layer of protection and defense. Then you start to get into to your core point about if it is a human being and what is the pattern, and then allowing and knowing that it is a genuine human being wanting to do genuine interactions. You apply detections, and we do that, and we've been doing that for a number of years. Now it's all going to be agentic. It's all going to be bots or machines, and which is a good machine, bad machine, and will it follow through all the 7 steps that it was supposed to? You require a little bit different, and what you require over there is better understanding of the intent in terms of, if the intent was, XYZ, is it kind of following through the intent? Is it swaying away, from there, right? You want to think about, how can I have sort of like this thinking around verification, right? It's like, is my handshake there? Like, are we exchanging the right kind of, security, crypto fingerprints and other things to make sure that, you are the right and person or the right sort of, agentic AI bot, and I'm going to allow you, and then I trust you, going back to my digital piece. So I think intent plays a role, guardrails play a role, the whole AI verification plays a role. More and more customers are offering MCPs. Those protocols are evolving, A2A, ACP. So you need that whole layer of intelligent security, AI security that is now looking at all of these things in a very different way. So detections are rapidly evolving. A lot of smart people working in this space, and the industries are sort of coming together.
How does Akamai see AI playing a role in defending against AI, especially as both offensive and defensive capabilities get more automated? How are you going to use AI itself to fend off those AI based attacks?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? And we have a history at Akamai where we have utilized ML AI on supervised, unsupervised models to do the detections, right? If we're dealing with kind of finding the needle in the haystack, how do you know that these patterns are human or bot? How do you know that these signatures are, kind of authentic or forged? How do you know that credential stuffing is occurring? Like there's a lot of, underlying technology that we have in our products and solutions are powered by AI and ML models that we are bringing forward. And the team does a lot of kind of deep research. And the advantage we have is tremendous amount of data. We see majority of the internet traffic. So we know what is good traffic, bad traffic, and we know if something's happening in the financial services, if something's happening in the airline industry. We have that intelligence to kind of correlate things. So some of the core principles remain, but we are maniacally focused on, because what you want to do is you want to fight AI with AI. So if AI comes in with a very kind of intelligent and a very kind of large scale from an attack perspective, then you need to have that same ability to fight AI with AI, because speed matters, because the way you can, have the detections and the way you can adjust your detections, or the way you can sort of, find different ways to plug the holes. All of this is very relevant.
Rupesh, thank you so much for joining me and breaking down what's happening in this new wave of AI driven bot traffic. It's clear after listening to you and, of course, after reading the latest SOTI report that AI automation is no longer a background threat. It is quickly becoming a core challenge that every digital business needs to understand and prepare for. Thank you so much for your time today, and I look forward to chatting with you again.
Great. Thank you so much for having me, Swapnil. Look forward to chatting more. Thank you.